Alright, so in case of our SCD2 table, we may have those audit columns. They are called as your audit columns. So what do I mean by the audit columns here? So when I say audit columns, these columns are generated by the ETL. As in when I execute a ETL job, that ETL job will generate a value for this. Now we have the audit columns like flag, version, start date. The naming convention may vary. Okay, they can say record insert date, record updated date, or start date, end date, active date, inactive date. So the naming convention may vary, but the meaning is always the same. Like user ID, like who has loaded these particular records and everything, or like your surrogate key. Even surrogate key is an audit column because it is going to get generated by the ETL workflow. This is treated as an audit column in some cases, so I'm just giving that heads up as well. Alright, so in case of flag, so what is this particular column all about? Why this particular column is going to get maintained or is going to be maintained in case of your SCD2 table? This column is maintained to identify the record types, whether the record is new or old. Okay, for example, let's say I have a record of Durga. He was as QA engineer first. Alright, he was carrying a salary of 1500. Okay, now this is the first instance. Let's say Durga is joined as a QA engineer with $1500 as the salary. So what kind of a record is this? He is joined in an organization
New.
called as DWBIADDA. DWBIADDA. Okay, now he is joined as a fresh candidate, okay, as a QA engineer for the first time. So this record will be new for me. The flag value of this particular record would be new.
New.
Okay, now in a course of time, after 1 year, Durga got a promotion. I mean, Durga is still on a QA job, but he got a hike in salary. He got 2200. Now what will be this record flag version? Oh, sorry, flag type, flag value. This will be new. The earlier record will turn to old, right? Because why that is said to be as old? Because you see an update has happened for Durga and the latest record is carrying the salary of 2200. And that is why this record will have a flag value as new and earlier record will have a flag value as old. Also, the version, this would be the first version of data. Okay, now this is the second version of data for Durga. Likewise, after 1 year, Durga is still as QA, but he got a hike of 3100. I mean, his salary got increased. So what happens to this particular record? What would be the flag value of this particular record? The flag value will be new, and the version would be 3. But what should
Okay.
happen to the old record? The new value should get updated to old.
Old.
Okay, so what is flag trying to do? It is going to identify. Now from this particular table, how can I pull out the latest record? I can just write a query, select star from this table name, whatever the table is, alright, where flag is equal to new. If I execute this part of the query, I'll get the latest record out of that particular table. Or else I can even write the query in this way. Select star from table having. Alright, sorry. I need to get this one right. Where version is equal to select max of version. Alright, from table group by whatever the column is, the signifying column is. So what happens on grouping all this particular employee ID, I'll get the max version. So when I say max version, I'll get the 3 value here. So version is equal to 3. I'll get the value for this particular record called Durga. If I'm going with any of the employees. Okay. Or if I want to have all the max versions, I'll say in. But this has got a disadvantage in this particular query as well. I'll say I'm just giving you a heads up. Okay. So with the help of the version and the, what do you say? With the help of the version and the flag column, I can identify the latest record as well as I can identify the historical records. Okay, this query is not proper. Okay, don't take this as the query, but this is the general format that we are talking about the record called Durga. Okay, is that clear?
If the designation changed to QA to senior QA,
Mhm.
then the flag value is changed to 4. Huh?
Yes, it has been changed to senior QA. Let's assume that salary did not change. Any change
Okay.
in data will be affected with these particular values.
Okay.
Okay, so this will be old. Okay, this is new. The version would be 4. Okay,
Okay.
whatever
Okay.
may be the changing columns, if it finds a minute change as well, the next set of record would be a latest record. The previous record would be an inactive record, and that is why it has to be turned to as old. Is that clear?
Okay, Durga, clear.
Okay, any other questions from anyone before I proceed further?
It's not a question, just confirmation. Uh, so I understood that. So these types are used completely based on the business requirement. Is correct?
Sorry.
For example, if we want to analyze the historical data, then we go for type two. If not, in case we only need to analyze just with the current and recent data, then go for the third one. Is my understanding correct, Durga?
Yeah, if at all our business requires only the current and recent history, then all the tables would be, or the analyzation tables would be implemented in SCD3 type. If at all the analyzation requires the complete history, then they would go with the implementation of SCD2 type tables. Okay, or else the
Got it.
analyzation is required is enough with the only set of current data, then they would go with the implementation of SCD1. Okay,
Sure.
perfect. All right. All right. So these were the different three types of our dimension tables. Likewise, we have another kind of dimension table called as confirmed dimension table. Now, to talk about this particular confirmed dimension table, let's recollect as a particular thing that we have discussed. All right. Let's say this is my sales. Okay, this is my customer. This is my product. This is my employee. This is my vendor. Okay. What kind of a table is customer?
Customer is in a dimension table.
Right. What will be the table of product, or what kind of a table will be product?
Same. Factor.
Same.
Dimension. Employee,
Dimension.
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 Vendor, you'll be having the entire
Dimension.
master information of vendor. Now what will be the table of sales?
Fact table.
Fact table. Perfect. Now what is this arrangement? What is this
Stars.
kind of, yes, this is a star schema.
Okay.
Okay, this is a star schema. Now let's say I have another fact table, let's say F2. Okay, another dimension table, let's say D1, another dimension table D2. Okay, now this fact table has references to this dimension table D1, and it has also got a references to this particular dimension table D2. Likewise, it has also got a reference from EMP and product. Now what is happening here? EMP is the table, EMP is the dimension table which is being shared by sales fact table and also F2 fact table, or I can say If you see this particular thing, this is one star schema, right? Likewise, if I see till here, this is another star schema. Now what is happening here? Both the schemas has got two tables in common. Okay. Now what are those two tables? Employee table and
Employee
the
and
product table. Okay. So these tables are said to be as confirmed dimension table. So what do I mean by a confirmed dimension table? If the same dimension table is used in more than one schema. Now here I'm using this in this particular schema as well as in this schema. So this employee dimension table and the product dimension tables are my confirmed dimension tables. These vendor and customer are not confirmed dimension table because they are not shared with any other schema. Here I have only EMP and product which are shared by some other schema, right? Some other star schema, and so they are said to be as my confirmed dimension table, right? So what is a confirmed dimension table? If the same dimension table is used in more than one schema, then such kind of tables are confirmed dimension. Okay, right? Likewise, I have junk dimension table. So to understand what is a junk dimension table, let's go with an example. Alright, this is one table. Let's say I am naming this particular table as some ABC. Okay, ABC is my table and this has got these columns. Okay. Right. So this is my data that I have in this ABC table. Now what kind of an information that you can perceive from this particular table? What kind of information that you can perceive from this particular table?
Transaction cost and quantity.
Okay. Okay, tell me what kind of a table it is.
Dimension
Factor.
table.
Why it is a dimension
Fact.
table? Why it is a factor?
It's a, it's a factor because it has some transaction details.
It has got some transactions, but is the table has got only transactional information? Yesterday we have seen a particular table called as sales. In
Yeah.
that, do you see any related information of any customers over it? Did you
No.
see a reference or did you see the complete information over there? We saw only a reference, right? Yesterday my
reference.
table works in this way. Sale ID, sale date, right? Prod ID, right? Customer ID, EMP ID, cost and quantity. Right. Here in the sales fact table, am I seeing the complete set of information of customer or the employee or the product here?
Yeah.
I just have the references here, isn't it? These are my references within this particular table, but I don't have the complete set of information. But if you see in this ABC table, Yes, I have the transactional information. Till this is my transactional information. And this is a person who has made the transactional information. So I can say that this is my transactional information. But if you see the rest part, this is my dimensional information. The complete set of customer information is maintained here. So what is happening here? This kind of dimension table or this kind of a table is having the dimensions plus facts. It is having the master information along with the transactional information, and such kind of tables are called as your junk dimension table. If a table has got dimensions within the facts, then such kind of dimension tables are said to be as our junk dimension table. So how we are going to work in the real world when we get the data from the source in the same manner? So when we get the data in this manner, what we are going to do? We are going to break this particular table into two. I mean, I'm getting the, let's say I'm getting the source in the form of this one. So what happens to the target side? So this is how: transaction ID, transaction date, cost, quantity, cost ID. So this would be one set of table. Likewise, cust ID, cust name, city, phone and number, email ID. Now here if you see, the cust ID would be my foreign key element and cust ID here would be my primary key element. Likewise, transaction ID would be my primary key element. Okay, so what is happening within a junk dimension table? I'm gonna get both the dimensions and the facts related information. So what am I supposed to do? I have to get them split into two tables. One is into facts. Now this would be my transactional fact table, right? I'll be having only information that is related to facts. Only this information would be maintained over there. Alright, whereas this one I'll be having the entire information of the customer. Now I have the junk dimension table split into dimensions and facts. This would be my customer dimension table. Right, this would be my customer dimension table. Okay, so whenever you get the junk dimension tables, they get split into two tables. One is into facts and the other into dimensions. So this is another classification of dimension table. Likewise, we have another set of dimension tables which are called as date or time dimension tables. Now these dimension tables are created for the purpose of the lower granular level of information that needs to be generated. Let's say I have to perform or I have to get the analysis on a particular data in this manner. I want to know, right, the total sales happened on every Thursday of July month. Right. This is the analysis that I need to make on a particular data. Now, if I go with my regular tables, I have to have my data applied with multiple functions so that I can derive this kind of information. Okay, so what the business would do, as and when a business is active on a particular day, what happens is automatically a record gets loaded. Now the different kinds of day dimension tables or different columns that you see in case of your day dimension table are your date ID, alright, date, day, month, month name, okay, like quarter, year, fiscal year. Okay, so what would be date ID? Let's say today is today's date. I have my business operating on today, on 25th of July. Okay, so what happens? The date ID would be 0252015. Likewise, what is the date today? 25. What is the day today? Today is my Saturday. Right. What is the month ID? 07. What is the month name? July. What is the quarter? This is my third quarter here. Alright. What is my year? Year is 2015. Alright. What is my fiscal year? Even it is 2015. Right. So fiscal year and year varies for each and every country. Okay, so in case of in India, if fiscal year is taken as from January to December, but normal operation years would be taken from April to March. Okay, so that is how it varies from country to country. Okay, but now this date dimension table will have a reference to your sales tables or any of your fact tables. So whenever you wanted to have or you wanted to get such kind of an information, what you do, you make a join on this particular date dimension table to figure out this kind of information, to figure out the information, the lower granular level, the granular, when I say granular level, it means that what is the lowest level of information, what is the level of information that I need to retrieve from that particular tables. It all depends on the business needs. Based on the business, these tables are going to get constructed. Now one more important thing about these date and time dimension tables, they do not carry any physical data or any business related transactional data or business related information, but these tables will carry the information of the business running days. If at all the business is shut down on a particular day, then you won't be having that particular day getting entered into this particular operational data. Okay, if at all business is running on a particular day, then you see that the date ID would be generated for that particular day. Okay, so this is the date and time dimension table. Now who creates this particular date and time dimension table? How is the data going to get created within this particular date and time dimension table? It is all done by our data modelers who are the one who is going to create these particular dimension tables and everything, all the tables, and our ETL team will be responsible in order to generate these particular values within that particular date tables. Okay, now I'm talking about a data modeler. I was talking about data modeler yesterday and I was talking about data modeler today. So what does the data modeling team does? Data modeling team will prepare the schema in this way. I was talking about a schema objects, right? Now this is how your data model would be given to you. As in when you are put in work, you would be given a data model in this manner. Now what you can infer, what you can get from this particular data model, right? From this particular data model, you will be able to know the relationships between each and every table. Okay, you'll be knowing the relationship between each and every table. Now you see the projects. If I take projects as my table, I have the references to my clients table. Every project is done for a particular client. Now you see every project has got a project ID. Now who is the client ID? I'm gonna pull the client ID from my clients table. Alright, likewise the project name and everything. Okay, but apart from that, this project table has got a reference to my staff on projects as well. I mean, who are the persons who are working on that particular project. Now see, again I have the project ID. Now you see the references, see here the lines that are going to joining into other parts of the figure. Okay, likewise the client has got fees table reference, the client has got references to the client address. Okay, likewise invoices, my invoices would be my fact table here. This would be my fact table because I'll be having the entire information of what is the amount that we are going to get paid for each and every client. Now you see this invoice ID, every invoice is represented by an invoice ID. invoice number, period ID, what is the period for which this invoice is prepared, client ID, what is the invoice for which or who is the client for which the invoice is prepared, invoice status code, what is the status code, you see the total fees, discount, amount payable and other details. So this becomes my fact table here. Rest all, address, client address, all these are my dimension tables. Client address, clients, projects, staff. See, in case of projects, I'll be having the complete set of project information. In case of clients, I'll be having the complete set of clients information. The client address, I'll be having the entire information of the client address. Okay, so likewise, all the rest of all the tables are my, what is a dimension tables. My invoices table would be my fact table. Likewise, my fees also. See, within the fees for the clients, this is again another fact table for me. Alright, so you'll be getting the data model in this manner. And how is it going to benefit the testing team when we get a data modeling in this way? Right, because we'll be working on the
Sir,
tables. Yes, please, Samir,
I have a question.
please.
In these relationships, what is this line marked and three lines marked with a circle? Any specific reason for this?
Yeah, there are specific reasons like see the lines and your what do you say, the circular things and everything, they specify the relation, how the keys are going to get identified, what are the keys that going to make this particular record unique. Okay, so that is the identification that you can get from this particular data models. Okay, now at the time of delivering the data model, you would be given this particular what do you say, symbols association as well, because people will represent, like you have a different set of data modeling tools. Okay, so based on the data modeling tools, the reference symbols varies. Like if there is one kind of a symbol called as Z as well. Okay, one to it all shows the relationship between the tables. Is it one to many or many to many or uh, many to one? So you have those relationships in case of your database, right? So these kind of symbols would show that. Okay, and this purely depends on how the database or data modeler is designing them. Okay, so you will understand it when you see a what do you say, a PDM that is generated by your team, where they would give the information as what is this particular notation for.
Durga, I have a question.
Yes, Sonia.
Yeah. Is this schema which we follow, star schema or snowflake? According to that, will it be constructed or how it will
This
be?
is a normal database model. I'm not talking about a warehouse model. Okay, this is a database model. If it is a warehouse model, you would see the identification as dimensions and facts. But it's a database model for
Yeah.
me. It's not a my warehousing model.
Okay.
Okay.
Mhm. Okay.
All right.
No, just now you said na, that the fees and invoices are the fact table and others are dimension table. So that's what I asked. Why
Yeah, yeah.
is it?
How did I say? I see the facts related data within this, right? So when this particular database is moved into your warehouse, these are the tables which get converted into your facts. Making sense?
Okay.
Right. See, earlier, if I was talking about an employee table at the source and employee underscore std1 at my target, right? So at the source, I'm classifying this table as dimension because I see the data that is going to that is going to be present in that particular table. Based on that, I'm trying to judge whether this table is a dimension or a fact. Okay,
Okay.
likewise, looking at this particular columns, I can see that these columns will maintain only the dimensional related data. So I'm trying to figure out, I'm saying that it's a dimension table and this is a fact table because I see the transactional information within this particular table. So when this table is moved on to my warehouse, definitely you see facts or invoices underscore facts or facts underscore invoices or FCT underscore invoices. So you see the naming convention in that way.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So this is how you will be getting the data model, and this is how you have to understand. Now, why this particular understanding of data model is really important? Because we'll be working on the tables, we need to know the relationship between the tables, because we'll be writing the queries on this particular tables. We are moving the data from one system to another system. We have to understand the relation. Sometimes two or more tables are clubbed into single table. At that particular period of time, what are we supposed to do? We are supposed to join the tables, write the queries and deliver them. Okay. So is that okay, Swami? The data model and everything. The data modeling team does this activity and they create all these particular tables in the defined user space. Like let's say the schema where we are going to work, you'll be having all these particular tables created. All right. So these are the classifications of our dimension tables. Likewise, we have our fact tables classified into three types. Types of facts. Right. So what are these particular types of facts? One is your additive facts, semi-additive facts, and non-additive facts. So what do I mean by additive facts? If a fact when joined with any of the dimension table in the schema gives us the summarized information, then such kind of facts are said to be as additive facts. For example, I have a sales table and the sales has got the columns as sale ID, right, um, cost ID, EMP ID, cost, quantity. Likewise, I have another table called as my EMP, employee, EMP ID, e-name, job, salary. Likewise, I have another table called as cost ID, I mean the customer, first name, city, phone number, and email. These are the fields, or these are the different tables that I have: customer and EMP. Now what kind of a table will be sales? Sales would be my fact table, right? EMP would be my dimension table. Likewise customer would be my dimension table. So these dimension tables are related to your fact table. I mean employee dimension table is related to your sales table, and is as well as customer dimension table is also related to your sales table. Now these are in one particular schema, right? So I'll be having the schema generated in this way. This is my sales, and this side I have my customer, and this side I have my EMP. So this is my star schema because a fact surrounded by different dimension tables. Now if I join these two tables, what information I can figure out? I can figure out the information like total sale done by an employee. Okay, total sales performed by a employee, right? I can write a query. So that means I can get a summarized information when this sales fact table is joined with my employee table. So what kind of a query I can write here? I can write an aggregate query. See here, the query can be in this way: a sample query. Select sum of s dot sales comma e dot emp id from sales s emp e, where e dot emp id is equal to s dot emp id group by e dot emp id. Now when I write this part of the query, what I get? I get this summarized information. What is the total sales done by each and every employee? an employee may be performing many sales. Let's say in a particular day, an employee has assisted 10 customers. All the sales done by these particular 10 customers would be the total sales done by him for a particular day. Likewise, if you want to analyze this particular information over a period of time, then what you do? You write this particular query. As a result, what is happening when you're joining this sales and employee? As a result, what is happening? You're getting the total information in the form of a summarized way. Alright, you're getting total in the form of your summarized way. Likewise, the sales and the customer. Okay, every customer, like we as a customer, we can approach the same store multiple times. So we wanted to know, or if the store wants to know, like what is the total sales done by each and every customer. So what do? They write the similar kind of query, or the query can be similar. Instead of e.empid, it would be c.custid. Instead of emp table, it would be cust. Instead of grouping by cust, and this would be cust. Okay, so what happens here? I'm going to get even the summarized information here. So whatever may be the dimension table around this particular sales table, what kind of an information I'm getting? I'm getting the summarized information here, summarized information here. Then this kind of facts are called as your additive facts. A fact table, when joined with any of the schema in this particular, any of the dimension table within that particular schema, is going to give you the summarized information. Then such kind of facts are said to be as your additive facts. Likewise, let's say I'm having another table joined here. Let's say product, another product dimension table. So what kind of information I can get here? When product joined with sales, I can get, or I can derive an information like total sales done by each and every product. In my store, I can have multiple products, right? But for each and every product, I want to figure out the total sales done. So what can I do? I can join these two. I can create an aggregated related function or aggregated query, and I can get that particular information. Likewise, if I have a vendor dimension table, vendor is nothing but the one who supplies us the articles or the products. Okay, so total sales done by each and every vendor, even you can derive that information as well. So what is happening here? Sales is an additive fact, because when this sales table is joined with any of your dimension table, what kind of an information you are getting here? You're getting the summarized information. So a fact table, when joined with any of your dimension table, gives us the summarized information. Then such kind of facts are nothing but called as your additive facts. Same is the case with semi-additive. If a fact table, when joined with few of the dimension tables, gives us the summarized information, and for rest gives us the detailed data, then such kind of facts are nothing but semi-additive facts. The best example for understanding the semi-additive facts, let's say I have a fact table which is called as bank. I'll take a bank scenario. Okay, current balance, or let's say balance. I have a fact table called as my balance. Now I am taking the customer dimension table. This is my customer. Alright. Likewise, I'm taking another dimension table called as bank. Okay. If I talk about a bank called as an ICICI. Alright. So what kind of an information does the bank requires from the balance? Understand this particular concept according to the context. Okay. Now, in a day, the bank requires information of the total amount present in a particular branch, right? Total withdrawals happen, total, what do you say, deposits happened, total withdrawals happened at a particular ATM, amount left in a particular ATM. So they want the detail, sorry, they want the summarized information at the end of the day. What a bank requires? It requires the information in a summarized way. If they have any query, then they will go into the detailed level. But till then, what do they need? They need the summarized information. Alright. Likewise, when you talk about a balance and a customer, like let's say, think about in this way. On the very first month, let's say we got 75,000 salary credited into our account on first of every month. Let's say 1st of July, we got this particular salary credited. By 25th, okay, I see that my amount is some 7,000. Okay, I see the amount has reduced from 75,000 to 7,000. If the customer is presented with the statement that is giving only summarized information, like let's say a statement is generated for a customer and within the statement it has mentioned that you have only 7,000 as balance. You as a customer, will you stay with that particular bank? You as a customer, will you stay with that particular bank? If you are given
No,
with this
we
7,000 as
generally
an amount.
require we generally require the transaction details.
Right, we need the detailed information. Okay, I got this amount. How come this amount has been reduced to 7,000 amount? I need the statement on each and every day. What has happened? Right, where did I spend? Did I swipe or did I withdraw? I need that entire information. So for a customer, I cannot give a information in a summarized manner. So I have to give him a detailed level of information. Right, I have to give him a detailed level of information. Here I can give a summarized information. If at all I have a query, then I'll go into the detail part. Else on a daily basis it would be a summarized information for the banks, but for the customers it would be a detailed information. So what you can say, the balance table is a fact table which when joined with your banks will give you the summarized information, but when joined with your customers will give you the detailed information. Such kind of facts are nothing but your additive facts, sorry, semi-additive facts. Okay, so this is your semi-additive, and the non-additive is very simple. It's exactly opposite of your additive facts. If a fact table when joined with any of the dimension tables gives us the detailed data, detailed data, then such kind of facts are nothing but called as your non-additive facts. And the best example to understand the non-additive facts is your fact tables containing the shares or your percentages. Right, if a fact table has got the columns as your share values or share total number of shares or your percentages, then always you can retrieve the detailed level of information. You cannot summarize it. Okay, if you try to summarize it, you will get invalid results. Let's say, to understand this, what do I mean by it? Let's say TCS is declaring their quarterly results. Okay, every quarter they're trying to declare their results. Let's say in the quarter 1 you have 10%, they gave 10% profit. In quarter 2 they said 20%. In quarter 3 they said 30% of profits. In quarter 4 they said 40% of profit. What is the total profit? If I summarize, can I say they got 100% profit? Will this be correct? What do I mean by summarization? Summarizing nothing but I have to add up all these things. Right. Now if I add up all these things, I get 100%. Will this be correct?
Yes.
No.
No, average should be taken.
Right. It's not average, but you have to take in this way. Let's say I'm starting, TCS has got 100 rupee in the first. By quarter one, it has doubled up or it has increased, piled up to 110. Then only they can say that they got 10% profit. Right. By quarter two, what happened? This 110 has been increased to, on this 110, they got 20%. Okay. So what happens here? It becomes 22. 22 I just say 132. On this you got 30%. So what happens? 33 is 69, 69 and so on. So it would be 173 or 4, whatever it is. On this you got 40. So 17 4 68. So when I add 68 to this, definitely it would be 235 or 240. Okay. So 235 plus. So where did he start and how did he end? So what is the total margin amount that he has earned? It is more than 135 plus. Now when you made a summarized information, you got this one. This is wrong. Right. So in a fact table where you have the fact related or transactional related information, where you see the data in the form of percentages or in the form of shares. Let's say when I'm talking about the shares, today I got 10 shares, but tomorrow I may pile up my shares to 100. It doesn't mean that I have totally of 110. I had 10. On this, I took another plus 90, so it piled up to 110. So the total shares here, I'll see the column like as in this way, number of shares. If I have a column called as number of shares. Okay, on this, if I take a summarized information, if I do a summarization, it says I have 110 shares, but it's not. I piled up because shares always you buy, you sell, and you do all these kind of stuff, right? So your value varies according to your actions. Okay, so it will not even give you the summarized results, because when you go with the summarized results, you'll get the invalid results, invalid data. So these kind of facts are treated as non-additive facts because they will not be able to give you the summarized information. I mean, you can derive it, but you have to follow some other methods where how to derive that. But directly you cannot do that. Okay, and that is the reason why they are said to be as your non-additive facts. Okay, so these are the classifications of your fact tables. All right. Now, another important schema information, enterprise warehouse schema and data maps. These are two important terms again. So what do I mean by enterprise warehouse schema? What do I mean by data maps? Likewise, a bank manager. What kind of an information does the bank manager require? Let's say in a particular bank, what kind of an information does the bank manager require? Every bank manager in a particular bank would see how many number of customers enrolled today, right? How many number of savings accounts opened up, how many number of checkings account opened up, how many number of customers who have cleared all their dues, the personal loans issued. So they need everything in a summarized fashion. The bank managers require how many, what is the total count. They don't bother about the customers because they cannot see each and every customer information then do the summarization, right? On a whole they does the summarization, and if at all they feel that the results are not okay, then they would start looking into the deeper results. But on a daily basis, what kind of information that they require the summarized information. But to a customer, whatever maybe the day, he always requires a detailed information. Let's say today I started my transactions, I started using my ATM. After purchasing or after withdrawal and everything, what would I do? I would check my mini statement or I would check my detailed statement. Why? I want to see what has happened to my account, how many charges, or what are the extra charges, or what are the charges that were levied on my account. I need to see all this kind of information. So a customer, I need to present a detailed level of information, whereas a managerial level or the top management people, I need to give the data in the form of summarized manner. Okay, this laid the path for construction of data warehouse into two segments. Now what is going to happen here? Let's say this is my source and this is my target. Target in the sense my warehouse. Okay. Now within the warehouse, I'm going to create a segment, and that segment is going to be useful for my top level management people. And this segment is set to be as my enterprise warehouse schema. Enterprise warehouse schema is one in which you see all the summarized information is maintained. You would see all the summarized information maintained in the enterprise warehouse schema. Likewise, I would construct my data marts. Data marts are nothing but your subset of your warehouse, where you will be having the detailed level of information. Here, I'll be creating a data mart which would be useful for the customers. These customers. Okay. So this is for the customers. Okay. So customers are your low management level because they don't manage anything as part of the business. They manage themselves. So they need only their related information. They don't need others' information. They need their information. So for the customers, what do? They construct the data marts. If the information has to be presented towards the detailed level. Okay, if you want to have a detailed level of information to be maintained, then we'll be going with the construction of your data marts. If at all the warehouse is all about implementation of the summarized information, then we go with the implementation of enterprise warehouse schema. At a time, you can have both the things maintained within the warehouse. Okay, you can have the summarized information as well as you can have the detailed level of information as well. Okay, so this is what your enterprise warehouse schema and your data marts. Fine. Likewise, now what we'll do is we'll see about the architectures. After all, architectures. The initial architecture was in this way. The very first architecture was in this way. I used to have a single source. I used to have a single target system. This is my DW, data warehouse. This is my DAV. Okay, this is how my single first architecture was, ETL. Alright, so what is going to happen here? In order to load the data into your warehouse, the extraction would happen here and also transformation would happen here, and after transforming, the data would be loaded here into my warehouse. This is how the initial architecture is. But what is the disadvantage of this particular architecture? The first disadvantage, in this architecture, as the extraction and transformation are happening at the source end, okay, your extraction and transformation is happening at the source end, there can be a possibility that your transactions or your transformations can modify the existing source data, can hamper the existing source data. Source data is always very important. It should not be altered, it should not be disturbed, it should not be updated or deleted. Whatever no transactional activities should be taken on your source data. Source data is very important for their business. operating the business. So there can be a possibility that the transformations may hamper the data, may hamper the source data. So this is the first disadvantage of your first architecture. Likewise, the second disadvantage is, yes, I have a single source system, but what if I have to retrieve the data from multiple sources? Now, when I have data to be retrieved from multiple sources, I have or I may be required to join these particular data. But what can happen? This can be in Oracle schema, this can be in SQL Server, and this can be in flat files. Can I make a join of these three schemas at once? I cannot. Right? I cannot join all the heterogeneous sources and transform it at their end itself. Okay, I cannot join the heterogeneous sources information all at once and transform that data at the source and then load it into your target schema. So I cannot go or I cannot apply this initial kind of architecture where I have the requirement of pulling the information or extracting the data from multiple sources, and that to heterogeneous sources. I cannot apply with this particular architecture. Okay, and the third one, the third disadvantage, source is sitting somewhere and target is sitting somewhere. Let's say DWBI. DWBI is going to construct the warehouse for, let's say, ICICI. ICICI Bank warehouse is going to be constructed by DWBI. Now, in order to pull the data, I have to connect to the ICICI network. Right, I have to connect to the ICICI network, and I am having my network in my DWBIADDA. Alright, so I have to pull the data from ICICI, transform over that particular network. I'm not only extracting but also transforming over there and then loading here. Right, and then loading there. So what happens when you are separated by quite a distance, okay, and you are separated by a network, then it is obvious that your performance would come down, right? Because you're not only extracting the data but also you're transforming the data. Okay, so these are the disadvantages of your first architecture. Very simple to understand the third disadvantage. You people are over there in Hyderabad or in India and I'm in US. Okay, now we are connected through a medium called as internet, and that too with GoToMeeting. Okay, if my internet connection is poor or your internet connection is poor, if my audio drivers are not working properly or your audio drivers are not working properly, we are the one who is going to lose the information. Whatever the information I'm trying to deliver, whether good or bad, you'll not be able to get that, right? Or whatever the question that you wanted to ask, I'm not able to get that. Right. So because of this distance separation, if the network is good, then all good. No problem, nothing. Will be on a smoother page. But if the network is bad or if your systems are bad, then there comes the real problem. There comes the efficiency of the teacher and efficiency of the system. Okay. So these are the disadvantages of your first architecture. So to overcome this particular disadvantages, there came the second architecture. And what the second architecture say, yesterday we have seen a highlight about a small project, a small information with the help of a second architecture. Now I can get the data from multiple sources. I can get the data loaded into my target system. But before loading into my target system from multiple sources, what am I trying to say? Okay, bring the data and store in my temporary area. And this temporary area is my staging. Perfect. Bring the data and store the data into my temporary area. Just do only the extraction process. Do not apply any transformation. Just pull the data as it is, load it, and from staging, do the transformation, then load into my target table. Okay, so the disadvantages. Let's recollect the disadvantages and see the advantages of this. The first disadvantage was I cannot apply the first architecture for multiple sources. Yes, I am able to get the data from multiple sources. The second architecture, the transformations are applied at the source end, and whereby there is a possibility that my source data may get modified. Now, am I applying transformations at the source end? No, I'm just only extracting the data. So I'm all good. The third one, all right. Now, extraction and transformations are happening both at my source, okay, and then loading the data, and they are separated over a network. Now here, I'm not at all applying the transformation. So at least I could improve the performance of my warehouse, right? If at all I'm extracting and transforming over a different network, then the time and the efficiency that it requires is more. But now I'm just pulling them into my network. Staging will be present in my network. So I'm just pulling it. I'm not at all doing anything. Okay, I'm just pulling them and placing in the staging. From staging, I'm going to do this. The third disadvantage, to illustrate in the best possible way according to our classes. Okay, as and when a batch is formed, if Nagaraju Garu has informed me that a batch is ready, come Hyderabad, come to our location, take the class, and then go. So what would I do? Okay, I come from US, I take the class in Hyderabad where we are together, and then deliver the content to you so that our network problems will not be there. Okay, and my content would be delivered directly to you. I can take your questions, I can answer your questions, or you can ask me whatever the doubts that you have. So once done, I'll go back. It's a temporary movement, right? It's a temporary movement for me. Likewise, the same is the case with our second architecture. Okay, so but what is the disadvantage in case of my second architecture? Yes, I require multiple ETL sessions. In order to move the data from one source to the staging, I have to have a one particular job that needs to be configured. In order to move this particular data from this to here, I need to have second job, third job, fourth job, and this increases the way the number of tables that I have. Likewise, I need to have the fifth job here, right? So the second architecture is advantageous over first, but it requires multiple ETL process. Okay, right. Third architecture, or third, or I can say it's an extension architecture of our second schema. You would see everything same, but the last point that we have discussed will be given here. Now, earlier, this is how my warehouse is constructed. Now, within my warehouse, what am I going to do? I'm going to present the data according to the user perspective. Okay, if I have to present the enterprise related data, or I have to have my top level management information, then what would I do? I would go with enterprise warehouse schema, and parallelly I need to also serve my low management people as well. So what would I do? I would implement the detailed level of information. So what would be the detailed level of information? The detailed level of information can be maintained through my data
Data
marts.
mounts.
Perfect. So how is the data movement happening? Yes, from source the data movement is happening to staging. Right. So here what is happening? Extraction. Right. From here you would see the transformations happening. This is my staging area. Okay, this is my staging area. From here the transformations are applied and data gets loaded into my warehouse. This is my DW. So within the warehouse, where is the data first getting loaded? The data gets loaded into my enterprise warehouse schema. From enterprise warehouse schema, the data gets loaded into my data marts. Okay. Now here, the important catch that you need to take, that you need to figure out. What kind of a data will I have in enterprise warehouse schema?
Summarized.
I'll be having summarized. What kind of a data I'll be having in data marts?
Detailed.
Perfect. I'll be having detailed. Can I derive summarized information, sorry, detailed information from a summarized information? Simple point. Before starting my class yesterday, had I told you that, okay, as part of today's session, I'm going to discuss the data warehousing concepts. Within the data warehousing concepts, I have dimension tables, fact tables. Dimensions are classified into slowly changing dimensions, confirmed dimensions, and facts are classified into additive, semi-additive, non-additive. All done. Can you derive the detailed information out of the points that I have listed out? Can you derive it? Will it be possible?
No, it's not possible.
Yeah. From the summarized way, if I give everything in a bullet point and I ask you to derive the detailed out of it, it's not possible directly, but indirectly, how is it possible? Okay, go to Google, right, give all the bullet points that I have listed out, then get the information. Right. So here from summarized information to construct the detailed data, it's a highly challenging thing. So what data marts construction would involve now? Data marts construction would also involve pulling the data from the staging. Staging has got a copy of source, right? So what it does? It will also read the data from your staging. Right. Directly you cannot create the detailed data from a summarized data. So what you do, you're gonna pull the data from the staging also. You'll be having a reference from the staging also. These data marts, the data marts that you see here are said to be as your dependent data marts. The data marts that you see here are said to be as your dependent data marts because they are dependent on your enterprise warehouse schema. They'll be having a reference in case of your enterprise warehouse schema. So they are said to be as your dependent data marts. And this kind of architecture has got a name given, and this architecture name is top to bottom. Why it is said as top to bottom? Any idea? Any idea why it is said as top to bottom?
The data traveling from top to bottom to data mart.
Right. In for summarized information, who is benefited by this? Managers. Managers are nothing but your top level management people. Detailed data, who are benefited with this? The customers, your low level management people or bottom people. So the data movement is happening from top to bottom, and so this architecture is said to be as your top to bottom architecture. Okay.
Durga, here the detailed information we get from the staging table, no?
Yep.
Staging storage.
Staging also will be having a, but prime reference would be your summarized information. Let's say
Okay.
first your summarized information is calculated, derived. Let's say the total salaries paid to each and every department. For 10 department, the total salary paid is $25,000. For 20 department, $45,000. Okay. Now in the data marts, we have to, let's say we need to calculate the total salary or salaries paid to each and every department. Individual salaries paid to each and every department of employees belonging to each and every department. So what do I need to have? I need to take the reference of 10, 20. What are the department numbers that I have? I'll be taking the references from here. Then I'll be going and checking into my staging. Then I'll be getting the data derived. Okay, these are all your development part, but I'm just giving you an insight of it, how it goes. Okay.
The disadvantage in architecture 2 is only the number of jobs are increased.
Yes.
That is the only disadvantage.
Yeah, that's the only disadvantage that we have. Okay,
Okay, thank you.
but you'll be having all set of information maintained in one schema. You don't have this summarized and detailed level of representation in case of your
Okay.
second architecture, right?
Okay.
Now on third, it's an extension. From second, they are extending it to third. When they have extended, they are trying to maintain the data in two different forms, one into summarized and the other one into detailed part.
It stores only the data is stored only in the data warehouse in the second architecture,
Yes.
not in summarized and detailed. It is an
Yeah.
extension. Third one is an extension to second one.
Perfect. Okay. All right. So likewise, this is all about your top to bottom architecture. This has got a name. Likewise, you have another architecture and the name I'm going to give you and you have to tell me how the architecture would be. Bottom to top.
Write the name of architecture like 1, 2, 3, 4. That.
There is no name for 1 and 2. First architecture and second architecture.
Okay, fine.
Okay. Tell me bottom to top architecture. Okay. Bottom to top architecture. What will I have first in my warehouse?
Detail views first,
Yes.
data marts, then
Yes.
Data
the
mart.
Excuse me for the drawings. And this is my warehouse schema. Enterprise warehouse schema. Now the data is going to flow from your data marts to your enterprise warehouse schema. I have the detailed level of information here. Can I derive the summarized information directly? Will the
Yes.
EWS needs to refer to staging? Will it be required? I have the detailed level of information here. From a detail, can I derive the summary? Okay. So far, like today at the start of the class, what I have given the summary point that I have discussed yesterday because I discussed something in detail about that particular points, right? So from the detailed level of explanation, I can derive the some bullet points out of it. Likewise, you have the detailed level of data maintained at the very first stage from where you can derive the summarized information. So these data marts are said to be as your independent data marts. In top to bottom approach, you have the data marts and they are said to be as your dependent data marts,
Dependent.
whereas, sorry,
No, you can continue.
yeah. So in case of your bottom to top, you have data marts that are said to be as your independent data marts. Okay, so these are the main topics that we would be having in case of our warehouse. Okay, these are the main things. Okay, one a tester even needs to know because in the interviews you would be asked about these things. So what do you mean by would you say data mart? What kind of information you would see? What do you mean by the architectures? What is your project architecture? So you'd be asked all these kind of questions. Okay, so these concept really helps everyone, and at the very same time you have to give a stress on your different types of your dimension tables because every interview you would be asked about the dimension tables questions. Mostly they will touch on your historical table. How will you identify the historical data getting loaded into that particular table? How will you identify the current related data that is getting loaded into that particular tables? Okay, they would be asking you to explain SCD1, SCD3, all right, the fact tables and so on. These concepts are really important. They are gunshot straightforward questions to you. Nothing what do you say, nothing roundabout questions. There is no round robin algorithm that is played on that. It's a straightforward question. So what do you mean by SCD2? How will you have the data classified in that? On what basis you can identify the current data? On what basis you can identify the historical data? Okay, so you'd be asked such kind of questions over there. Okay,
Durga, I have a question.
please go ahead.
As the bottom to top is more advantageous compared to top to bottom, so why do we generally go for this top to bottom, or how exactly is customers using these?
if they are see, the main goal of the going with the top to bottom approach is, if the management is more towards their analysis and less towards the customer. See, when I'm talking about a banking industry, it has to be bottom to top, because even the customers are more important. Customer needs to have their detailed level of information, and also bank needs to have their enterprise warehouse schema. But you may have certain warehouses where you need only the top level management information first, like you see any power plants, right? Power plants, they have the data calculated for their machines operating on every day, which is the machine that is being running, what is the turbines, or what is the what do you say, radiation heat that are generated. So they need all those particular information. So first what they do, in such case they will go with summarized information. They are least bothered about giving information to the outside access. If at all they require, then they would construct the detailed level of information. Okay, so it totally depends on the industry. It totally depends on the business need mainly. Okay, so these are the 2 points that I can directly throw, because I worked on both the industries, so I'm giving you that. Okay, clear?
Yeah, clear. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks. So these are all the main topics that we were about to discuss. Now I'm gonna talk you. I'm gonna explain you a certain project, but we are not going to get implemented that. The reason for explanation of that kind of a project is, when you are going yourself into the market, you may have to represent yourself as an ETL test engineer, and you may be asked the questions related to your project. They may ask you to explain the architecture. So based on that, they may ask you the questions. And the architecture, the one architecture that I'm going to present you, that I'm going to give you, will help you in at least making your career. Okay. So try to focus on this particular architecture. If you have any questions, just let me know. I'm going to re-explain that. And once that is done, we'll see a particular job and we'll see how the testing process needs to be initiated on it. All right. I have two different sources here. The source one, I'm talking about a banking industry here. Okay. And banking industry, and that too on certain file which has got the mortgage loan information. Okay. So this has my all assets. Okay, this is my assets file, and this is my loans file. Okay, my source is going to have two different files here. I'm talking about a particular, let's say ABC as my bank. I don't want to take any other name. ABC as my bank. Okay, for ABC bank, who are going to give the house loans to the people in India, they are going to send the data. They want their in a business intelligence application to be developed for their requirement, for which what they are saying, okay, I'm going to send the assets file as well as the loans file, okay, which will be having the information of the loans and as well as the assets. Every loan is an asset for that particular bank. Okay, the relationship here, the relation is in this way. Every loan will be classified by a loan ID. Okay, let me write that. Okay, I'm just giving the highlights of this particular thing. Every loan will be having a loan ID. Okay, and the period, right? Uh, Accounting period. Okay, so these two, and you have other related data, the rate, amounts, and blah 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 stuff. Okay, These two fields are the unique fields for each and every loan for each and every period. So what do I mean by that? Let's say I'm trying to get the data, loans related data for a period of July. So what will I have? I'll be having the loan ID as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and my perioding date would be right 1st of July. So 01/07/2015. This would be my loan period. Likewise, the same loan can appear on August as well. 01/08/2015, because for every loan, every month the payment would be happening, isn't it? You'll pay your home loan premiums. The customers would pay their home loans premiums, right? For every month they may have to pay their premium amounts. So the loan ID and the accounting period together classify the records as unique. Okay, now this loan ID and the accounting period is also part of your asset table. Okay, this loan ID and as accounting period is also part of your assets file or assets table. Okay, now this is my parent table. This is my parent table and this is my child table. I can have a loan ID which is belonging into the parent table or in the parent table within the child table, but I cannot have a loan ID that is present in child table but not in parent. Okay, indirectly I mean to say that I should not be having any orphan records. All right, parent to child relationship. If you have the parent, you can have any number of childs, but you cannot have childs without parents. Is the thing clear so far? Any questions so far within these two things?
Not really. Would you mind explaining again?
Okay,
So,
I'll do that again. Okay, fine. All right. So I have an ABC bank who wants to have an analysis done on their mortgage loans. All right. So within the mortgage loans, what they agreement was they're gonna send the assets file and they're gonna send the loans file. Okay, they're gonna send the data in the form of files first. Okay, I have the data in the form of flat files and they are 5 delimited one. Whatever it is. It's for our example, okay? All right. Now the nature of these two files is assets is my primary file which will be having the main related data and the data that is related to loan and accounting period. Okay, so every month for a particular loan the payments has to be initiated. So in the assets you'll be having a loan and accounting period defined. Likewise in the loans file you'll be having the same accounting loan ID and the accounting period defined, and there should not be any loan ID that is not as part of your assets. Let's say here I have a loan ID as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and for a period of 01/07/2015. I will be having the same loan ID here. Okay, but I cannot have a loan ID called as 1, 2, 3, 4, 8 of this period, which is not as part of this assets table or assets file. So this is an orphan record. Why I say this is an orphan record? Because I don't see this combination present in my parent file. Is that clear?
Yeah.
All right, fine. So this is my set of data here. Okay, fine. All right. So what the project architecture is? The project architecture, okay, they are going to, this ABC has committed that okay, I'm gonna have my FTP location, secure file transfer SFTP location, where I'm gonna place these two files which are in pipe delimited one, they are in .dat format. Okay, they are in .dat format. I'm gonna place them in my SFTP location, and I'm gonna create a login for you guys where you can make an attempt to my SFTP location and pull these particular files. Okay, now I have these two files here. Now what happens here? So first I'm gonna get in touch with these particular files. I'm gonna pull these particular files and load them in one of my pre-staging. I'm just saying this environment as my pre-staging environment or pre-staging database, whatever you wanted to say. I'm just loading them into my pre-stage. I'm loading the data into ln, let's say abc underscore assets underscore pre-stg or p underscore stg. Okay, this is my table into which this assets related data is going to get loaded. Likewise, abc underscore right loans underscore p underscore stg. In this particular table, I'll be having all my loans related data getting loaded. Now here, the job that is configured should be responsible in accessing this particular SFTP location, and it has to pull the file and just load the data into my pre-stage environment. It should not do any other action. Whatever the file content that I have, it has to be loaded into my pre-stage table. Is that clear? Is that clear so far?
So here the data model creates that ABC assets PL stage, right?
Yes,
Then the jobs, and they consider the configure the job which extracts the data from assets file to this table, right?
perfect.
Durga, I have a question.
Please go ahead.
What is the difference between pre-staging and staging? Is it like testing team will be validating the data which we have received from
There is
the...
no difference. There's no difference. Even this is my temporary related data. I'm just pulling up because I'm going to apply my transformations in other staging environment. So what I have done, I have made one layer ahead where I'm just pulling the data as it is. I'm not doing anything. I can even say that I'm going to take this particular data into a staging environment. But I just laid another environment for our, what do you say, more convenient purpose. That's it. Okay, even I can say, if I don't say this pre-stage, you will not be confused. So the reason why am I throwing this kind of naming conventions or this kind of environments is, you may find across this environment and then you may realize, okay, Durga did not say this. Okay, so I don't want to get that kind of notation from my perspective. I don't want to give you that kind of things. So I'm just giving some outlines, some technical jargon that you will see in case of your ETL standards. Okay, so pre-stage environment is purely same like your stage environment. The main purpose why they go with the pre-stage environment is they just pull the data as it is, and from there they'll try to pull the data into staging environment. And when pulling the data into staging environment, there would be some cleansing rules that are going to get applied, and that is what I'm about to say. Okay, or you'll be having these kind of environments where you're going to filter the data, where you're going to clean the data layer by layer. In that case, you'll be having these kind of environments. Okay, let me complete the flow, then you will understand the importance of these environments. Is that okay?
Yeah,
All right.
thanks.
Yeah, thank you. All right, so I have a pre-stage environment where I'm going to get the data loaded, and my pre-stage environment is of Oracle schema, or Oracle database. Sorry, it's an Oracle DB. Okay, now from here there are checks done. These are called as my data cleansing checks. From here, my checks are done. So what kind of a checks? Loan ID and ACTG PRD should is loan ID and accounting period null. This would be first check that I'm going to get conducted on this particular data. Right, is loan ID and accounting period null. If at all it is null, and if it is not null, if at all it is null, then get the data routed to my tables, and those tables are my exception tables. Okay. And the exception table is okay, assets underscore exception. The reason it is I don't want is null. Yes. If yes, then route them into my assets underscore exception table. If they are not null, then proceed further. And where another check is done, here I will be having another check where the check is all about figuring duplicate data. So what is going to say that this is duplicate data? Duplicate data is going to get determined by the combination of loan ID and accounting period. Right. The same loan ID and same accounting period cannot be repeated for the same month. Okay, a particular loan ID cannot be same for two different loans. Even though I have two different house loans, my loan ID will not be the same. I'll be having a different loan ID generated and different accounting period as well, if possible. Okay, so the duplicate records are classified according to the loan ID and the accounting period. Okay, now here you're checking is duplicate. If at all is duplicate, then route them into the same flow. Okay, route them into the same flow. Okay, make them into the exception table. If at all they are not duplicate, then move them onto my staging area. This is no, and this is yes. Okay, move them onto my staging database. Okay, this would be my staging area. This would be my staging area here now. Right, now where I'll be having the data loaded into ABC underscore asset underscore stage. Okay, the same thing will get initiated here as well. The same thing gets initiated here as well. Okay, let me join this. Okay, even this loans table is also going to have a check on loan ID and accounting period null. If they are coming as null, then they have to go into another table, and this another table would be my loans underscore exception table. Okay.
So actually, why do we need to do these validations? In fact, the job which is configured, so cannot that does the same activity while it is running.
The job is going to do these kind of validations, but we have to know this architecture, right? It is done by the job. We are not going to do all these things. These are the
Okay.
conditions that are put in the job. Is that okay, Swami?
Okay. Yeah, yeah. So
The
while the
reason
job
why
runs,
we are doing
this
this is,
executes this.
okay, the reason why we are doing this is, can I analyze the data which is having nulls in my target table? Can I make an analyzation on my columns, on my key performance indicator columns, which are my loan ID and accounting period? Can I, if they are coming as nulls, can I analyze it?
No, no.
If I load the data as it is into my target table, I'll not be able to analyze that particular data, right?
Right.
So if my file is coming with such kind of data, I'll just throw them into exception, saying that I cannot analyze them. I'll be able to only analyze the data that has got the valid set of records. And even if I have the duplicate records, even I go with the analysis, then my results would be wrong. So even if the duplicate records are coming into the picture, I have to throw them into my exceptions.
Okay. So this is the logic we are going to put in the job itself, is it?
Yes. Okay.
Okay.
Right. Now, okay, fine. So we got the data into our ABC underscore loans underscore STG. Yes, I got the data loaded into my these two tables which are in my stage. Okay. Now,
Uh,
yes,
I have a question here.
please, Sumaya.
I mean, in real-time scenario, we have to test this also, right? I mean, from pre-staging to staging, whether null data is going into staging or not.
Yeah, we have to.
Whether okay. So
I'll
the
show
how
you all the
that
testing conditions. Once I complete the flow, I'll show you what are all
oh,
the testing conditions that we have to apply and how we are going to test it. Okay.
okay.
I'm
Yeah.
going to tell you all the testing conditions. What are all the testing conditions? From where we have to get our testing activities initiated, how are we going to test? Everything would be given to you once I complete the architecture. Okay, the
Okay,
architect,
sure.
I'm explaining the project now. Once this project is
Mm-hmm.
done, I'll explain you that flow, the
Okay,
testing flow.
sure.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
So I got the data into my staging. From staging again, the transformations, I say there are few transformations on this particular data. Okay, on this particular what do you say, the asset data, and the transformation is all about my summarization of the amount. Summarization of the asset amount. So I have some fields. I'm not able to give that particular fields now. Right. I'll say that I have the summarization of the fields. So this, once this data is summarized, it will be loaded into my final target table, and the target table is assets. Okay, assets is my final target table. So from after staging, you're going to do that particular activity, loading the data into your assets. Now, when loading this particular data, when loading the loans data into your loans, పడుకుంటే పక్కన పెట్టేసారు అది. Sorry. When I'm loading the data into the loans, now I have to perform a check, and the check is the records orphan. Right, is the records orphan. So what do I mean by orphan here? When I say orphan, the records that are coming from the loans are not as part of your assets, and they are said to be as your orphan records. Now here I'm going to perform that particular check. If the answer is no, then I can load the data into my loans. If the answer is yes, then I'm going to load the data into another table called as my loans underscore error. This is another table. So what does loans underscore error will contain? Loans underscore error will contain all the, it contains all the orphan records.
So these are the tables in the warehouse, right, Durga?
Yeah, these are the tables in the warehouse. Uh, this one is also in the warehouse. This one is also in the warehouse. These are in the warehouse. Okay, clear? Now,
Okay. So
what
I
can,
just to be clear from my side, Durga,
yeah,
like transformation is nothing but it's just implementing the business rules on the specific job, which what to say, execute based on that logic that we give. Is it correct? For
correct.
example, if you want, like you explained yesterday, if you want an active what to say
Yeah, active
person,
records getting converted into A, you'll be
uh,
applying that,
so
right?
that kind of logic we implement on each job, then which will execute based on that, and extract load the data into the warehouse.
Perfect. Perfect, Swami.
Okay.
Okay. Right. This is all my architecture. I'll just conclude this. Okay. So what is happening here as part, you see this, as part of this particular small project, which I have implemented for ourselves or for myself. Sorry. Right. I have two different files. From the files, I'm just loading into one of my pre-stage environment. The reason for making this particular pre-stage environment is to have my cleansing activities. Okay, you have a new topic called as data cleansing. So what do I mean by data cleansing here? Okay, data cleansing is nothing but a process to clean up the data, a process to eliminate the invalid data, and that is nothing but called as your data cleansing, cleaning of your data. So why am I cleaning my data? Because my warehouse should not contain invalid data. I will not be able to analyze with invalid set of data when loaded into my warehouse. So before loading the data into the warehouse, what am I going to do? I'm going to cleanse it, clean it. Alright, so here as part of my requirement, if loan ID is coming as null or accounting period is coming as null, I'll be not able to make a perfect analysis. So that is my invalid data. So I have to clean it up. Likewise, if I get the duplicate related data for the same loan ID and accounting period, even then I'll not be able to perform a perfect analysis on the data. So even I don't want duplicate records. So I'm just cleansing it out. I'm just cleaning that particular data. After removing it, what am I going to have? I'm going to have a valid set of data that is moving into one ahead layer. Alright, clear? The purpose of pre-stage and stage here, Samyukta?
Yes, Durga. Thank you.
Yeah, that's alright. So this is all I have about this particular project. So is the sample project clear to you guys? Implementation of sample project is clear to you? Or
Yeah, it is.
explanation of it? Everyone?
Yeah, it's
Yes.
fine, Durga.
Okay, cool. All right. So what kind of a testing, what kind of a questions that we need to have first? Okay, let's say I have my technical team, or let's say our technical team has given this particular project. Now, what kind of a question that we can impose on this particular architecture? What are the questions that we are supposed to ask? Can anyone ask the first question to me, please? Let's start from your side. I'm trying to make you think first thing.
No, come again, Durga. What is your question?
Okay. After this particular architecture, I gave you the architecture, right?
Yeah, correct.
Right. Now, what are your questions on this?
How
So,
often do we get the data into assets and loans flat files? Is it a daily basis or a
Perfect
frequency?
question. Perfect question. What is the loading or what is the file frequency that you're coming up with? Is it a daily file or is it a monthly file, weekly file, bi-weekly file, or how it is? How it is? Good question. So the answer is here. You can just move. Okay. Okay. Files are monthly. Next set of question. I'm going to drag a little longer today, but I wanted to make you clear. That is what my intention is, if you don't mind.
and next thing is what type of file? Maybe, I mean, either a flat file or it will be a CSV file or it will be a.
Yeah, like I said, it's a .dat file. Perfect. .dat file and pipe delimited.
When does the job execute? When does the job execute?
Okay, execution frequency. Okay, we'll talk about it later on, not right away. Any other things? File naming. What is the naming standard of the file? Right, I said SFTP location. I said the file. This will contain the assets related data, that will contain the loan related data. What is the naming standards of that particular file? Okay, clear? So I have to know the naming standard of that particular file, and I have to know the information about that particular file, like how many number of columns or how many number of records will I be getting as part of that particular file over a particular period of month. So even I have to know those things as well. Okay, right. So after that, what do I need?
And a relationship between the two tables like asset loans.
Yeah, like I already told you, the relationship between these two tables is surrounding on loan ID and accounting period.
The mapping doc. How about that?
Yes, you need the mapping document. Why mapping document is important here? Because I was talking about some summarization of these particular fields. What are the fields that are going to get summarized? On what basis they are going to get summarized? You need to have the mapping document of this. Okay? Any other questions? Right? So let's conclude the questions. Okay, these are the main questions that we need. Okay, so first thing is we need to know how the file is, what is the nature of the file, what will be the naming standards and everything. More importantly, one particular question that everyone should know, and the answer is, what is the ETL tool? What is the tool on which we are going to work on? Because in order to have this particular extraction, transforming and loading the data, you need to have a tool. But you need to have a medium. And in the market, you have many n number of tools, ETL tools, right? Informatica, Ab initio, data stage, Teradata. So you have many Pentaho, you have many tools, even SSIS. You have many ETL tools, but you need to know what is the tool that is going to get applied on this particular project. Okay, so even knowing about that particular tool is more important. I mean, not in depth of knowledge of that particular tool, but knowing about this what do you say, information is very important. So this is how our architecture is. Now, how would we go with our testing activities? So from where we have to start with our testing? Our testing activities would initiate from this particular point. Okay, right. So what we do? Okay, for our testing purpose, now what we do, we'll never go the very first time when we are running the jobs, when we are executing a particular jobs that are configured by the developer, which would put, sorry, which would pick these particular files and load them into our tables. We will never go with the source files, the exact source files. But what we are supposed to do, we have to prepare our test files. We have to prepare our test files. Now, what are all the main transformations that are applying within our what do you say date with on our data? The main transformations are based on, I mean, here within this example, the main transformations are on loan ID and accounting period. So what would I do is I would create my test file. Okay, let's say I'm trying to create, for example. Okay, loan ID ACTG underscore PRD and blah 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 stuff, amount, date, etc etc. Okay, this is my asset file. Assume that this is my asset file, and the loan ID is 12345. Accounting period is 2015-07. Amount is somewhere around $528, and date is somewhere around 20/07/26/2015. This is my valid record. My invalid record would be I'm giving the loan ID as null. Okay. Right. Next time I'll give loan ID and I'll give accounting period as null. Next time what I'll do, I'll give loan ID as null, even accounting period as null. Alright. Next time what am I going to do? Alright. What did I do for the last?
So duplicate well.
Is the record duplicate or not? Is the record duplicate
Yes,
or not?
it's duplicate loan ID.
That's loan ID is done, so it's obviously it's a duplicate, but
Okay. According to our project perspective, is this record duplicate or not?
It is.
Yes. Why? Because we have the same loan ID and accounting period for appearing twice within the same file. Okay. So this record is a duplicate for me. Okay. Now of all the, I'll prepare such file in which I'm having the valid data and as well as invalid data. So why am I preparing such a file? Because I have to ensure that my job that is being developed by the developer is handling the data properly. It has to load, sorry, it has to load only this data, which is that it has to load only 1 2 3 4 5 Okay, 2015, 528 and 0726. Rest all records should be moved into EC. Right? Why? This is null. Loan ID is appearing as null. This is null. This is accounting period appearing as null. These both loan ID and accounting period appearing as null. Here, both the data, both the records are duplicate according to the loan ID and accounting period. So they have to be moved into my EC. Right? So what would I do? I would prepare my test files. I would prepare my test data in such a way that the job is going to handle all these particular invalid data. So I'm going to test it whether I'm able to get this particular data loaded properly or not. Now what is going to happen here? Now if you see this, according to the project perspective, okay, now how many records I have created here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There are 6 records here, isn't it? Now how many records will be loaded into our asset underscore ABC underscore asset underscore P underscore stage? How many records will I be having here? Here I have 6
One.
records. How many records will I be having here?
One.
All
6.
6 records.
I'll be having all the 6 records because I'm not
Okay.
having any transformations here, right? Now, what will be the total number of records that will be having here in my staging table now?
One.
One.
One
1.
record.
Okay. Now, what will be the number of records that I'll be having in the asset underscore exception?
5.
Five.
5. Okay. Now,
One
if I
question,
have
Durga.
any transformations, I'll be having, or if not, I'll be having one record loaded into directly into my asset table. Okay. So this is how my asset file testing would carry. Likewise, even I have to go with my loan. So what would I do? All right. I'm creating a loan. Now loan accounts. So this is my complete asset file. Okay. I'm trying to create a loan account now. Loan file.
Durga, one question in between.
Please
So
go ahead.
why that pre-staging table would have 6 records? Because I understood that the job which is configured is going to execute all this logic, now like is a duplicate or load ID or null or what else. So when we extract the data from source file to the pre-existing, when the job executes this logic, then why should be there 6 records instead of one?
See, the thing is all my checks are not implemented here. It is directly pulling the data. That is it. It is not implementing any checks here. All the checks are implemented after the pre-stage level. So my
Oh,
cleansing activity, whatever the cleansing activity that I'm getting initiated, I'm initiating them after my pre-stage level.
so that's a new separate job, is it?
Yeah.
It's not the
Okay.
job that extracted
Fine.
from the source file.
Yeah. This is my job 1. This is job 2. Okay. Job 2 will load this data here. Job 3. Okay. Likewise, this is my job 4 and this is my job 5 which checks the cleansing, and this is my job 6 where it loads the data into these 2 tables. Is that okay?
Fine, yeah, got it.
Alright, fine. So let me take this. I'm preparing my loan related data. Okay. Let's say this is my part. Okay. Alright. Now I'm saying this 1, 2, 3. Okay. I have all these particular records to get data. Okay. Here it is.
Durga, I had a question.
Please go ahead.
If we set the loan ID to a primary key, it should not accept the null values, no?
Okay, in the file, can we set them as a primary key?
Yes.
Can we set?
The loan ID,
Yeah, please go ahead.
it is a table, no?
Okay, see,
If it is a
first thing, where am I getting the data from? I'm getting from a file. There is a high level possibility that I may get a value as null. There is a
yeah,
high level possibility. Okay.
yeah,
Now, this entire loan ID and accounting period together are forming my keys. And did I say them as my primary keys here? Because
no,
will my, I mean, I told you this important point in case of yesterday's explanation. Will my data warehouse will be having the source keys as my primary keys? No. I'll be having my own surrogate key. Will be standing as a
yeah,
primary key, right?
yeah,
So there is a equal possibility that I may get the loan IDs as null loaded into my target tables if I don't handle them.
okay,
Good question, 100% good question, but this is the explanation for it. Okay,
thank you.
thank you. Alright, so this is my loan related data. I have 7 records here. Okay, sorry, I have 7 records. Now of this, how many are valid and how many are invalid? Check it out. How many are valid and how many are invalid?
Two are the valid records.
Valid.
Okay, how many of them say 2 are valid records? Swami, do you say 2?
Only one
Yeah, I'm
is
also there.
valid.
Pandian 2.
Only
Okay.
one.
Pravina
Yeah,
2. Prem,
two.
Samyukta
3 records.
3 records. Okay. Sumaya,
I think only one is valid.
okay. 1 is valid. Okay. Why 1 is valid, Sumaya?
Okay, two are valid. Two are valid. The
2 are
first
valid.
and the last both
Okay.
valid
2 are
and
valid.
remaining are not.
Again, you change your answer. Okay. Fine. I say Sumaya was correct initially, then she changed later on. Okay. Reason. Why only one record valid? I said this is my loan file. Okay. I was telling you something called as orphan records, isn't it? I was talking
Yeah,
about some orphan records. Now if you see this, this is my asset file. I kept it as open for you guys. So in this is the only valid record. Okay. Rest all are invalid. Now here, this is the only valid record that is as part of my asset. These are invalid because of nulls and duplicates. But you see there is one particular loan ID coming as 12349, right? You see
yes.
12349. Do I see this as part of my parent file? Do I see this as part of my parent file? No,
No,
right? So this is an orphan record. So orphan record is also an invalid data for us. Clear?
But Durga, at from pre-staging to staging, at that stage, I think it's valid. Now, for when we
Finally,
move further, it
I'm
will be
talking all
valid.
together, Sumaya. All together. See, when I say valid, it has to be according to my target table perspective, right?
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
So you are correct till your, I mean, everyone are correct till your staging part. But when I'm talking according to my target table perspective, I have to look in the data, and I have to see that I have the valid set of data.
Durga, I have a question.
Please go ahead.
Yeah, the records which are duplicate like 1, 2, 3, 4, 4.
Mm-hmm.
The first time when it is checking, one record should be loaded into DB and the other record is duplicate of existing one. Instead of that, both of them are getting duplicated and removed.
Okay.
Is it correct one?
Okay. So here, what we are trying to do it differs again. Your point is good. It differs again project perspective. If the project is really interested in handling the invalid data, okay, because why I'm trying to handle these duplicates and throw them into my exception table is I'm classifying this record based on only 2 columns, isn't it? I'm classifying these records as duplicates based on 2 columns. Now you see, these are the 2 columns that I have the data like 12344 here 201507, 12344201507. But you see this 528 and 530. How can I correctly judge that which is the valid set of data? Which one should I load into my target table? Which one should I load into my exception? Making sense? If I'm classifying the record as duplicate on all the columns, then your point is correct. Okay, I'll load one record into it, rest into my EC. But here, I'm classifying the record as duplicate based on only 2 columns. So when I'm classifying the records as duplicates based on only 2 columns, I will not be able to judge the rest of the columns data, whether they are correct or invalid. I mean, whether they are correct or not. Clear, Samyukta?
Yeah, got your point, but still I have a confusion like we are missing out one record.
No, we are not missing it. See here. How can I say 528 is correct or 530 is correct? I'm getting them as duplicate. So I don't know. I cannot assess the rest part of the data. I cannot assess the rest part of the data. Which of the rest part of the data is correct? Can I say, is the record clearly giving an indication that this is the correct record and this is the invalid record? Is the record giving you that kind of information? I'm not getting any kind of information.
No.
So when I'm in a what do you say ambiguity, I will not take a risk of loading the data, which sometime maybe realize that it's an invalid data. Right? I will not be in that ambiguity. So I'll just ignore them as my duplicates. Okay. Your point is correct. If at all I have the data in this way. Sorry. If at all I have the data in this way. Okay. Now, if your project architecture is classified as if your project architecture says that all the columns are treated to classify as a record duplicate, then you are right. Okay, I will load one record into my main table. Rest all I will throw them into exceptions. That is correct. That will be really correct. Okay.
Yeah. Thank
All
you.
right. Fine. Thanks for the question. All right. Now here, this is what my X error record. Now see here. How many number of records I have here? I have 7. What will be the count of records to my pre-stage?
7.
7. What will be the count of records onto my stage?
1.
Yeah, Durga, this is
Yes,
Prem Prakash.
Prem.
I lost the internet connection and
No problem, boy. No problem at all.
here it is a little bit sometimes difficult. The electricity went and I lost the connection.
Not at all a problem. Anyway, you'll be having a recording as a backup, right?
Yes, yes.
You'll be getting
Yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah.
No worry.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Right. I say the records as 2 here because yes, I'm handling the null data and duplicate data here, but my error handling is happening here. My orphan record handling is happening here. So till here, what will I have? I'll be having 2 set of records. Now, when moving into this, okay, in loan exception, I'll be having 5 records. In loan error, I'll be having 1 record, and in loans, I'll be having 1 record. Is that clear?
Yes.
All right.
So the pre-stage the two records bit because it's a loan, but when it is target, it's going to what to say.
Can you come with sorry? Can you come up with your question again, please? I'm sorry, I missed your question. I could not hear properly.
Durga,
Mm-hmm.
It's
as
not a
you said,
question, Durga. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead. Sorry to disturb you guys.
Yeah, please go ahead. Anyone,
Durga, I had a question.
please go ahead.
You said that asset is in a parent table and the loan is in a child table.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So that we have a relationship between both table, no?
Mm-hmm.
But in this workflow, there is no relationship. Can you drag to the first one?
Okay. Yeah, this is the first part.
Uh, we have two tables, that is assets and loan.
Okay.
Asset is a parent table,
Mm-hmm.
as you said.
This is
The
the
loan
child.
is an child table.
Uh-huh.
But we have no relationship between asset and loan, no?
I did not write all the columns, right?
Okay.
I did not give you the data model, right? I'm just giving you a pictographical way of representation of the architecture. Okay.
Okay.
Had I
Okay.
given you the data model, I would have shown you the relationship between those two tables or those two files, right? I'm not giving you
Okay.
the PDM or the project data model or whatever it is. Okay.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Right. Thanks. Yes, Swami. Your question, please.
No, Durga, it was not a question. Just I was explaining my understanding.
Okay. Okay.
Like the two records in the staging is because there are two valid entries in the loans table, but
Perfect.
whereas since it is an R1, so it's gonna be one in the target.
Perfect. 100% true. Okay. So generally, okay. So the main reason of giving you this, just at least out of this learning, out of this entire ETL testing course learning, the crash course learning, at least you should be having an idea as how the things would happen. I would not say that this is the entire way, the same way it happens to all the projects, because every customer needs differs. Your need differs from my needs, the same way the customer needs. Okay, this is one such way that a project can be initiated. I'm sure, for sure, you'll be having the error tables, exception tables, you'll be finding the staging tables, you'll be finding the target tables. But the way they are classified, the way the project is organized, the way the architecture is implemented is going to differ. But you need to know at least one out of it. So this is the one that may give you an insight of it. Okay, so this is the basic reason for giving this kind of information to you. Okay, okay, right, fine. Okay, so before I'm about to conclude the things. Okay, so before I conclude, I'm going to show you a particular job and see how the things would happen, or how we are going to do the things, the testing area. I'm going to show you a particular workflow, particular mapping. Based on that, we'll do the things. Okay, so all right. Now this is my mapping document. This is an example that I have created for us to understand the things that would happen in our project. Okay, a small mapping document. I will not say that this is the entire one. It's a small mapping document. Now this is the information that you'll be having in any of the mapping document. However, it may be structured. You'll get the entire information or this information similar to this kind. Okay, so what is the information that we are going to get out of this? The information is You will be knowing the source components, you'll be knowing the target components or your staging components or pre-stage components or whatever the components is or the objects is. Okay, now here I am picking a particular file as my source. My file is dwbi underscore project.csv. Okay, this is one particular file for me, my particular file. Okay, and this is my this file will be containing these as my columns: the project ID, client ID, project name, project start date, project end date, and project description. These are the 6 columns that I would be having within this particular file called as dwbi underscore project.csv. Okay, and I'll be having source file location. Okay, so where is my location? Okay, this is my source file location. Okay, this is my source file location. Now from this particular file, the data is going to get loaded into my dwbi underscore pre underscore stage underscore project. This is my pre-stage table. The pre-stage table schema is in Scott. I mean, this table will be seen under Scott schema. This is my pre-staging schema here. Okay, now what are the columns this particular table will contain? See, columns and data types. Now you see I have a pre underscore stage underscore id. This is a number type. Likewise, I have a project id varchar2 of 25, client id varchar2 of 25, project name varchar2 of 25, project start date varchar2 of 25. Likewise, at the same time I have some other column called as batch id, record inserted date, record updated by or inserted by. Alright, so this column and these 3 columns are not as part of your source. Do you see them coming from your source file? No, they are not coming as part of your source. But how are they generated? Now see this. Pre underscore stage underscore id is an ETL generated column. The initial value should be as 1 and should get incremented by 1.
So it's a surrogate key.
Yes, it's a surrogate key, or you can say. Perfect. Surrogate key is my primary key here. Okay, clear? Alright, so this is my value, or this is my one of my derivative value. Likewise, I have a batch ID. Now see this. What is this particular batch ID? Not null column. It should not be null at all. Now, what is this particular batch ID column is? Let's say I am having 10 records coming as part of my source. Okay, so whenever I push this particular 10 records into my table, that means I'm creating a batch. A batch is going to get created, and within this particular batch I'm going to push all these particular 10 records. So I want to know what is the count of records that were as part of this particular batch. So I will get the information from this particular batch ID. When I go into this particular table and see the batch ID, let's say if I say the batch ID as 25, from this particular table, let's say if I write the query as select star from that particular table name where batch ID is equal to 25, then I should be seeing all the records that were loaded as part of the batch file. To give a more detailed explanation, I have a file, okay, in which I have some records. I have some 25 records. Okay, my criteria of getting the batch ID is the initial value of batch ID is as 1000. I'm just giving this. Okay, now I'm running this particular job. A job is nothing but a batch. Okay, pushing the records. Okay, now these 25 records are loading into my table. Now they are of batch 1000. So I should be seeing the value of 1000 for all these 25 columns. I should be seeing the value of 1000 for all these 25 columns. Okay, the batch ID should be seen as 25 columns. Next time in the file I'm getting 47 records. Okay, now the batch ID will get incremented to 1001. Now when I see them loaded into this particular table, for the rest 47 records, I should be having the batch ID as 1001. Okay, likewise, whatever may be the number of batches that are being executed, for all the records which are loaded as part of that particular batch should be having that particular ID, that particular value common for all those particular records. See, ETL generated column batch ID should start from 25. Every load the batch should be the same for all the records. I mean the batch ID here. There's a correction. Is that clear about the batch ID? Okay.
So it's like a batch ID every month if you're getting new set of data. So as the files we are getting are monthly basis. So this batch ID also would be something like monthly, which is incremented for one particular set of data, whatever.
Perfect. Right. No 2 months record should have the same batch ID in to be in, putting in similar smaller terms or simpler terms. Okay. Likewise, the date on which the job is executed, you should be seeing that particular date reflected here. Record inserted date. Likewise, login name. Whichever may be the user who is executing that particular job, their name should be seen here. So all these columns are my not null columns. I should not be having nulls. Parallelly, not only executing the data, not only moving the data from the file into this particular three-stage table, this job has to also create a batch table, and the batch table should have this particular batch ID, okay, and start date and end date and the user ID who has executed it. So I should have another batch table, or I should have another table that is going to get created, and the batch table and the name of that table is batch underscore table. Okay, and that table will be having these as my columns, these are the columns, and what kind of a data it is going to get loaded. Okay, first time it has created a batch ID of 25. Now the batch for all the records, you'll see the batch ID as 25 here. Now the 25 record will be seen here, 25 7 1 15. If the batch is completed on the same day, you'll be having 7115 and the user ID. Let's say next batch is created, so the batch ID will be 26. Likewise, you'll see 26 for all the records which are run as part of that particular batch. Okay, clear?
Durga, I have a question.
Please go ahead.
This mapping document, who will be creating it? Is it the data modular team or the development team?
Okay,
because
you have a different team called as what is the team called? Technical. Okay, you have a team called as technical STTM, technical source to mapping team, source to target mapping team. Okay, you have a separate technical team, and this mapping document is created with the help of the PA resources who will be getting in touch with the client. Okay, client technical person, and the technical team would be sitting with them, and they would be drafting this particular document, which would be shared across the dev team and also the testing team. Now when they share this particular document across both the teams, they are the one who's supposed to conduct a meeting and deliver the same. They have to explain what is this particular mapping all about, and what are the transformations that are applied. So they'll be giving it as a presentation or a meeting. Okay. Alright, so this is all about our mapping. Okay, so I'll just execute it. Okay, I'll just show you. Now I'm just, my source file location is in this way here. So this is my source file. I'm editing it. Okay. Now I'll try to create some records. You have to figure out the defects for me. So have you gone through the mapping document clearly? You want me to open up again? There are some defects within the mapping. I just wantedly placed the defects within that. Okay, so I'm not handling anything else. I'm just throwing something else. So how many records I have? 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10. Yeah, okay, right. I have 10 records in my file. Go through the mapping document again. First thing, the stage ID value should be created from 51,000. Right, the batch ID should get initiated from 25. Right, likewise, you have to even test the batch table. Okay, now let's see. Okay, this is the stage. Okay. This is the job that I have to execute. Okay, this is the Informatica to give you an instance. So Informatica is an ETL tool, and this is the job that would be configured by the dev team. Okay, what the dev team does, Informatica developers does. Informatica developers would be creating the mappings in this way. Okay, they would be creating a mapping here within the designer area. The Informatica has got, okay, let me give you an overview of Informatica client components, which may be asked. Right, Informatica has got 4 different client components. The first one is repository manager. So in case of your repository manager, your Informatica admin people would be working on this particular repository manager, where the admins would be creating the users, they would be creating the folders, they would be creating the permissions, they would be creating all necessary sets of importing and exporting of the objects and everything. So that would be managed here. Mostly the Informatica admin team would be working on the repository managers. Then you have the designer. Designer is the place or the area where the Informatica developers, or otherwise said as ETL developers, are going to work on. So what ETL developers do, they will be creating the mappings. So mapping is nothing but a kind of a linking between one system to another system. This is a mapping document. So they would follow the same mapping document, and according to the mapping document, they would create the links between each and every source. Okay, and once the mapping is created, they would need to create a workflow. Workflow is nothing but a job that would execute this particular mapping, and that particular workflow is created within your workflow manager. Okay, this is the place, or this is the area where the jobs are getting created, or jobs will be created by the ETL developers or the Informatica developers. Okay, now in order to test these particular jobs, we as the ETL test engineers, what we do, we would be using this particular Informatica workflow manager. Okay, so within the workflow manager, we will be figuring out the necessary job. We will be given the information as what is the job that is going to configure for the particular mapping. So we would be knowing that particular information if no scheduling tools are used. Okay, so we'll be given that particular information. On figuring out that particular information, you would see all those particular workflows configured here under this particular workflows. Okay, so within this particular workflows, what you need to do, you need to drag the corresponding workflow into this particular workflow designer page, where you have to start executing the workflow. The execution is something like this. So right click on the area where you can see the start workflow session. Okay, so I'm just starting the workflow. Now, as in when the workflow is started, you would see the status or the job status in the monitor screen, which is the fourth component. Okay, which is the fourth component. See 11:28. My current time is 11:28, so I just loaded it. So I just executed it. Now please pay an attention here. All right. The important things as part of this is, yes, I have executed the job here. Okay. Now I have to look into the monitor screen. Okay, I have to look into the monitor screen, and within the monitor, I would be able to see the job statistics. What is the job that was run? See, this is the job name. Okay, what is the job that is run, and what is the total count of records that is coming from the source? What is the source failed rows? I mean, if there are any invalid rows, this workflow will be rejecting them. So if at all you have any source failed rows, you would see them the count as 0. I mean, if at all you have any failed records at the source level itself, you would see that count appearing here. If at all nothing is done, nothing is going to happen, you would see the target rows. I mean, target success rows, the number of records that were loaded successfully in the target, that you would see here. Likewise, you would see the target failed rows. Okay, so what is this particular target failed rows? The rows that have made an attempt in order to load into the target table but got failed because of a particular reason, and you would see that particular reason. You have to figure out the reason for it. Okay, and if at all you see a count, that means there are some records that are trying to enter into the target table but got failed loading into it. Okay, total transformation errors, if there are any transformation rules that are being applied, and if the transformation rules are failed, then you would see that particular count here. Okay, now, so this is the statistics. Now if you see, I have created my source file. Yes, see this, I have created my source file which is having 10 records, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10. I have created 10 records as part of my source file. Okay, but you see the statistics, the target success was saying as 11. Does this mean that it has loaded one more record? What is your understanding on this? Can anyone say? Why is the count 11 here? When I have the source records as 10, why am I seeing the count as 11?
Maybe column name also it's treated as a one row. I mean, top of the.
No. Okay, look at the mapping document and then you can easily give me the answer. So what happened here? I'm going to give you the answer. Okay, I have 10 set of records. Let me say the record names as 1 till 10. Okay, I have 10 set of records. Now for all these particular 10 set of records, I should be having the value as 25. Isn't it? Perfect. Is that clear?
Yeah, clear.
Alright. Apart from loading this, it should also load your batch table. Right? It should say 25 and the batch was started today 07252015 and it has ended today because we have just completed the batch at the same time, and it is being loaded by Durga, whatever it is, user ID. So along with this 10, it has also created a record in other table. So that is 1. So 10 plus 1 is your 11. Is that okay? Clear?
Yeah, it's clear. Yeah, clear.
Alright. Now why am I seeing this particular 9? Target rows failed as 9. The reason is it is making an attempt. See, I have total 10 records. Okay. This job is making an attempt to load 10 records into this particular batch table, but the batch ID is made as my primary key here. Okay, the batch ID is made as my primary key, which is not allowing to load the duplicate records over there. So it is going to load only one record and rejecting the 9 set of combinations of it. Okay, so here it is a defect. It should not happen in this way. So we have to let the developers know that the batch ID or the batch table is trying to load the entire set of records. So if you see the session log, when you click the get session log, you would see that particular information. Error. Unique constraint. See? Inserting into batch ID, start date. The same value you're trying to, it is trying to get inserted into it. That is the reason why this has got failed. I mean, it rejected 9 records. See all these 9 records. Okay, so as and when you execute a batch, you would see the detailed statistics within your workflow monitor screen. Apart from that, you can also get your session log, where from the session log you can derive the, or you can figure out the detailed information out of it. I'm sorry, is that clear? All right, fine. All right, so the next thing, yes, I have to validate it. Okay, I have to validate whether my file data has been properly loaded into my table or not. I have to validate this particular data. Right, so first let me check the tables. Okay, let me check my tables whether I have the data loaded into my tables or not. So the first table is select star from DWBI underscore pre underscore stg underscore project. This is my first table. See, I got the 5 records loaded, but figure out or pull out or tell me the defects within this. I can see the defects clearly within this. What are the defects? I can see 2 defects.
Batch ID.
Sorry? Yeah, you said correct.
Batch ID should be 20.
Batch ID. The requirement document saying that the batch ID should start from 25. But what is the ID that we see here? It is 28. So you are running the initial batch and the initial batch has not started from 25. This is your defect, first defect. Then the other one.
End date as null, project end date.
You cannot say that directly. Have you made a comparison with your, what do you say, file? Did you make a comparison? We did not, right? So we cannot directly say that. The other defect is towards this particular column. So what is this particular column? It has to start from 51,000. Now see this, it's starting from 51,004, which is again incorrect. Now first look at your audit columns. Whenever you execute a particular table, look at your audit columns, whether the audit columns are properly loaded or not. The job is run by an administrator. My Informatica login is an administrator. So I would see my login as administrator, my name appearing as an administrator, and the date is perfect. But I have an issue with my batch ID and my pre-stage ID. Okay, so those are my issues. Okay, now I have to validate the data. Now how can I validate the data? But because my source is in the form of a file. This is not a RDBMS system, right? It's not an RDBMS system. I cannot load this particular data. I cannot make a SQL query on this and get related onto my table. So what will I do? What I can do here? I can create a particular table, that to the similar structure of my pre-stage table. See, I'm creating a table, a temporary table now. Create table temp underscore project as select. What are the columns that I'll be having from the file? I'll be having the project ID, client underscore ID, project underscore name, sorry, project underscore start underscore date, project underscore end underscore date, project underscore description. Okay, can I create the table in this fashion? I did not give from. What is this table? Okay, so see, I'm trying to create this particular table. Temp underscore project created. But I have done a mistake. What is my mistake here? Now if I execute this particular temp underscore project, okay, table, I would see the entire data getting loaded into this. See here, temp underscore project. I got the data, but I should not have this data. I should have the file related data. So what am I supposed to do? I'll just truncate this, truncate table, temp underscore project. So I'll drop the table. I'll drop this particular table. Okay, commit this. Now, where 1 is equal to 2. Now 1 is equal to 2. If I select this, I will not get any results because 1 is not equal to 2. Okay, so when I create this particular, when I execute this part of the query, I would have only the structure of that particular table. Select star from temp underscore project. I'll be having only the structure of that particular table without the data. If you say this, describe temp underscore project, even I'll have the same structure as of that one. Okay, right. So I have created this. Okay, now what am I going to do? I'm going to load the data from the file here. I'll import the data from the file into this particular temp table. So, everything finished. Now see, I got the data. So I got the data. Now I have created a table, but I got the data that is from my file into this particular table. I got this particular data. Now what will I do? I'll write a query. Select star from, not star. I have to pull only these columns because the other table is containing more columns. Right? Select star from temp underscore project. This is my source query minus select from the actual table DWBI underscore project. So this is my target query union, again source query minus your target. Alright, so this is my data validation queries. This is my data validation query. Okay, so I'll execute this part of the query. If I get any results, then that means the data that is loaded into the table is not valid, not the data that is coming from the source. If I get the data as an output, it means I have not loaded the data, or my ETL job has not loaded the data properly. Now see this. See, I'm getting the data as an output. So that means my job, whatever the job that I have configured, is not loading the data properly. Is that okay? So the data validation query has failed. Making sense? Okay. Yeah. Target minus source. The structure is wrong. Okay. I'm not good at developing part. Okay, that is why you see the defects clearly. And can you say what is the defect? Okay, I'm executing the queries. Just check it out and you can figure out the defect easily. First, I'm executing the source table. Okay, then I'm executing the target table. Or let me, okay, do this. This is my target table. Why do you think that I'm getting the records as an output? What is the mistake? Okay, to understand the mistake, I'm doing this particular query. You can figure out the defect. You can make an analysis done. Where exactly the things were going wrong. Why do you see the data difference between both the tables?
End date,
Okay,
project end date, null value.
right. The data that is coming as part of your file says null as in this way, but Informatica has created null in a different manner. Okay, fine. It is Informatica has given this particular value as a string value. Making sense? This has given a value as a string. It's not a null, normal null. In case of your Oracle, null will be specified in this way, but it has given the value in the form of a string because the Informatica column, I mean the column that Informatica designer, the developer has taken is of a string value, so it has generated a string output here. But null is never a string, right? Null is not at all a string. Null has got no value defined, so all the nulls should be represented in this manner. Okay, making sense? That is the reason why you see this as an output. Okay, parallelly, what we are supposed to do, we are also supposed to check whether the batch ID got loaded into our batches table or not. So how will I check? Select star from, okay, I can directly make a check on the batch table, right? Batch underscore details. See, the same batch ID. Now to get a perfect confirmation whether the batch ID in this table and that table are one and the same, then what you can do? You can make a join, a left outer join or right outer join, whatever the way you wanted to, and you can figure it out. Okay, select star from, let's say batch IDs. Okay, maybe, okay, p dot batch ID comma b dot batch ID from batch underscore details. I'm giving the naming convention as B. Likewise, DWBI object. I'm giving the naming convention as D, where B dot batch ID is equal to B dot batch ID of making a left auto join. See, I got the same results. For all the 10 records, the batch ID is one and the same. No difference. Is that okay? Clear? Alright, this is how your testing activities needs to be initiated. Next time what you are supposed to do? You are supposed to make some changes to this particular file. Okay, and see, get the data changed. Okay, I'm just loading one more set of data. I don't want to kill your time. Okay, I'm just loading the data, inserting it. Okay, so what should happen now? A record should get loaded into my target table, for which the batch ID should be as 29. Now check your table. The status, it's still not loaded. Maybe. Right, batch tables. Okay, target success rows as 1, target fail rows as 1. There was one record which was not loaded properly into the target table. Right, this is another defect. Now you see the batches table. You could see that batch ID got created 29. Did you get the defect? The defect is, okay, I am trying to load the data into the table, okay, but the data did not get loaded here or did not get load here, but I can see a batch initiated for the same thing, okay, for which the record is not at all loaded. Get the session log, figure it out why the record was not loaded. Error rows for source table. Insert into. There was some problem, like, what is the problem? Unique constraint violated. Okay. Yes, this unique constraint getting violated because the Informatica developer, I'll show you the reason why. Because of this resetting value, the primary key that was given, it is getting reset for each and every job that is getting initiated. So for the next load, what is happening? It is going to make this value reset, and so it was not able to load the data. So just let me validate it, rerun the things. This time, see, I got the data loaded. Now you check it out. I would see 11th record coming through. See, so this one, P1023. The batch ID is 30. Now you see the batches table, 30. Clear? So in case of your ETL testing, almost most of the time you'll be playing with the tables, with the data everywhere. Okay, every time you'll be playing in this banner itself. You have to test your files. You have to test whether the data is getting initiated properly or not. Okay, so you have to do all these kind of stuff. Majorly here we did not include any transformation rules, but you may have many transformation rules that may get applied on the data. So what you need to do is you have to write the sequence according to the transformation rules. So based on that, you will be able to do the activities, testing activities. Is that clear?
Durga, I have a question.
Please go ahead.
Yeah, like in ETL testing, the queries which we write for using SQL, they're quite complex, right, compared to what we usually write, I mean, database testing or anything.
Right.
Yeah, so Like how can we practice writing such big complex queries?
See, the big complex queries in the sense you should be good till subqueries, you know. I mean, if you're good till subqueries, you can write the queries for any ETL testing activity. Majorly, what you need to know is, okay, let me give you the details of the things that you need to practice on.
Subqueries means this is after joins, is it? Like store.
Yes. Get all the string functions, okay? String functions, date functions. Why these are very important? Now let's say I have a column called as project started, okay? And in this, I'm getting the date in this way, 201506, 20150601. Now within the same column, I may get the data in different formats, but my mapping or my transformation is all about pulling only that particular data which is in YYY MMDD format. Okay, so what will I do? I have to apply certain date function on this particular kind of columns to see that only the right set of data is passing through that particular table. Likewise, string functions. So most of the string functions would be your substring functions. You'd be using majorly your substring functions, your upper and lower functions. Okay, these are the main string functions, or you may use in string function as well. I'm talking about Oracle functions. Okay, so you may use these functions more oftenly. Okay, sometimes you have to use the casting functions to convert from one data type to another data type. Sometimes you have to use to_cat function, okay, to extract certain part of your dates. Okay, like all the date functions like extract, okay, add months, add dates, you have certain Oracle functions, so please give a stress on that. Likewise, okay, nowadays analytical functions, all the data warehouse data is mainly on analytical basis, so give a stress on your analytical functions. So when I say analytical functions, you have row underscore number, rank, dense rank, okay, um, lead, lag, average, sum, count. You have all these analytical functions. See, the functions would be in this way: over, partition by, these are the partitions, and you have the same functions in your SQL Server, order by. So these are playing very important role in case of your ETL testing activities. Alright, these are main functions, the main analytical functions that you need to give a stress on. And apart from this, you have aura hash function, yeah, aura underscore hash function, which calculates a unique value for all the combinations of your columns. Even this is really important. Okay, please give a stress on this particular function. You have the Oracle documentation online, say Oracle functions. In your Google search, you'll be getting the Oracle site link where you have all these functions listed out. Please go through that particular functions. Then joins. In case of your ETL testing, the majority joins that we'll be using is left outer joins, because we may need the major table data incomplete, but other tables, if at all you need the matching data, you would be going with that, but if not, you'll be not taking that records. So majority of the joins in case of ETL testing would be left outer joins. Okay, so practice as how to write the left outer joins. Okay, and subqueries. Subqueries is really important. You have to go with normal subqueries. Okay, and also you have to go with your what is that query called as we have two different types of subqueries, which is your normal one. The other one is, I forgot the name. See, one part of the subquery, sometimes it will be on my tip of my tongue, but I could not figure it out. So there are two different kinds of subqueries. The first kind of subquery is innermost query will be executed first, and this result is passed to outermost query. Okay, whereas you have the second one, second, it's on my tip, I'm not getting it. Okay, second one, what happens is innermost query will get executed for each and every row that is processed for the outermost query. So that means what happens is, if at all there is an outermost query, okay, my outermost query executes first and the resultant is passed to the innermost query, a comparison is done, and based on that the resultant is retrieved. So there are two different kinds of, these are the two different kinds of subqueries. So you should be good with these particular subqueries. And once you're good with these all things, then you're good to write any kind of, what do you say, the queries related to it. Majorly to understand, in writing the SQL query, what you need to do is you need to understand the mapping document first. Once you understand the mapping document clearly, you will be able to write any kind of query. You'll be able to write any kind of query. Also give a stress on case and decode. Case and decode statements. If you're good with all these things, you're good to write any kind of queries for sure.
Or all these in the same SQL Server as well, right?
Yeah, you have everything in SQL Server as well. No difference. Okay. All right. So it's your question and answer time or your feedback time.